truth about genetics and natural bodybuilding and pretty much the entire fitness industry in general. I feel like this is a very important topic to talk about because nobody really seems to take into consideration the truth about genetics. They play a vital role in one's development and really how one will turn out to look. Genetics determine a bunch of things in our lives, from how good looking we are, where we store fat, how much muscle we can put on. The fitness industry places an unrealistic body standard, basically how one should look like nowadays. We see it every single day, and it really just sets this idea in our minds of how we should look. Now let me discuss this. Gymshark is the titan of this subject and has built their $1 billion company off of men and women injecting the juice. Now I'm gonna play devil's advocate here and pick somebody out of the Gymshark company that I believe is completely 100% natty free. No way, dude. Gymshark natural athlete? No way. There's no way. Now I'm not ignorant to the fact that there are probably some very skilled and high level natural athletes in the fitness industry. For this example, I'm gonna be using Will Tennyson. He has extremely gifted genetics. He's tall, he's good looking, and he is extremely strong. And is sponsored by Gymshark. While I believe he's 100% natural, that doesn't mean that everybody, like the average Joe, can achieve his physique completely naturally either. This ties into the main focus of my video, which is genetics, the truth about genetics, and why not everything you see online, even though natty, isn't achievable for everybody. Just because you know somebody is 100% natural like our friend Will here, and other examples like Athlean X and Jeff Nippard, doesn't mean that their physiques are obtainable for the average person with average genetics. Even a person with above average genetics, this would be extremely hard to obtain naturally for them. As a whole, these people have extremely gifted genetics in terms of their muscle building potential and their ability to stay lean with the amount of fat cells that they have, which is probably very low. As a whole, we need to understand this and understand our genetic potential so we can set realistic goals for ourselves. It doesn't matter if you're not as good looking or as strong as these natural athletes, it's genetics. Get in the gym, train your ass off, and do the best that you can do. Compare your strength and your physique to your own. I'm not saying it's wrong to look up to people like this. Hell, there are a bunch of fitness influencers that I look up to as well. But if you don't have their genetic potential, setting an unrealistic body standard for yourself to try to look like them will just lead to your own disappointment. 99% of everyone you see in the social media and fitness industry, like YouTube, have fantastic genetics. For the majority are on steroids. When you combine steroids with amazing genetics, you get people like this. I see too many people who think it's just hard work.
Sure, gonna make some gains. You can make some gains too if you do the same shit that I do. If you put the work in.
To achieve this level of muscle and entirely forget that genetics are even a thing. Start placing a more demanding emphasis on your own obtainable genetic potential. Now, the next point I want to make in genetic bodybuilding is muscle insertions. Your genetic muscle insertion is what determines what the muscle will look like attached to your bone. Two great examples of this are a short bicep head and a long bicep head. The shorter bicep takes up less space but peaks higher, while the longer bicep takes up more space but peaks lower. Another example of this are with pecs. Here we can see an example of a chest gap. These are usually considered the genetically doomed people who have a big gap in their chest. On the other side, we can see people with a connected chest, therefore it looks more square and more full. Usually the chest that have connected pecs looks more full, more developed, and looks bigger. People who have the god tier genetics, the god tier muscle insertions, are the people who have the straight symmetrical abs that go down in 2 rows on their torso like a goddamn suit of Roman armor. You can't change what your ab shape is, so you just need to work with what you got. Lastly, I want to go over body types. Whether you're a skinny stick that relies on speed and agility to dodge attacks, or whether you're a beast mode tank that soaks up the damage, these are a real thing, and sometimes we're a little bit of each. The first person we have here is the slim Ectomorph. These people are usually on the taller side, skinnier, lankier. These are your marathon runners and your bicycle riders. Usually because since they're smaller frame, riding a bicycle is easier, they are lighter, and they can go faster. Because the narrower and the smaller you are, the more likely you are to go faster on a bicycle. I just want to quickly throw this in here, tuck it under the rug. For the people who think that going on a bicycle and that training your legs on a bicycle is what builds your legs to be big and strong, because you've seen bicycle riders with huge monster legs, that's also genetics. Riding a bike, unless you're a very, very beginner, does not build a ton of muscle. It simply is very hard to progressive overload, and you're simply going time under tension for sometimes when you progress far enough, an hour. That simply does not put you in the right conditions to build up your legs to be big. These people who have monster quads and that ride bikes just have great genetics to have big quads. This is also the same thing for women. Some women have small quad muscles and small glute muscles, while some women have big glute muscles and big leg muscles. Some women store all their fat in their lower stomach and no fat in their glutes, while other women store all of their fat in their glutes and none in their stomach. This is simply just good and bad genetics. Once again, that's just how it is. Now, the Mesomorph usually has good genetics in terms of putting on muscle and muscle building potential. These are your bodybuilders and your people that compete in bodybuilding. They have an easier time putting on muscle than the Ectomorph. Now, the last person we have on this list is the Endomorph. Now, these are your tank builds. These are the guys that soak up all the damage on the front lines. Usually can be found at the buffet or on the front line of scrimmage. These are the guys you always want on your side and will never let you down. Okay, to wrap up this video, we covered genetics in natural athletes. Just because someone is natural doesn't mean that you can still achieve their physique. It doesn't mean that their physique is completely attainable for you. You have to compare your genetics to theirs, accept the fact that maybe you do have good genetics, but you just can't get to that level. It's not that you're not training hard. You just simply physically can't put on the amount of muscle that they have, even if you're training harder than them. Or maybe you just can't achieve their leanness because you were born with more fat cells. Just do the best you can with what you have. You may have trained for 6 years and they may have trained for 2 years. If their genetics are just miles above yours, then they're going to put on significantly more strength and muscle and possibly stay lean than you are. And if they're on steroids, then they're just going to blow you out of the park. You may have a ton of more fat cells than these other people, or you may simply lack that ability to just put on lean mass. Whatever it is, be honest with yourself and have realistic goals. If you're a lean guy and you're finding it very hard to put on mass, find ways to slowly but surely add more calories to your daily intake. Maybe have an extra cup of milk with your cereal. Maybe have an extra protein bar. You can always do little things that will eventually lead to your goals. And if you're an endomorph, find ways of slowly cutting down your calories. Let's say for lunch you had a burrito and a cup of soda. How about you eat the burrito but just cut out the soda and have a cup of water? There's little things like this that you can do that will eventually lead to your goals. If you're not a Johnny like the rest of us and you are a Bruce, you are a Chad, you are on the football team, and you have amazing genetics, you eat McDonald's every day, you have a pretty lean physique and you're very strong, well, you know what? I hope you step on a Lego. And I hope when you take your toothbrush and you put it under the water that the toothpaste falls off. I want to tell the truth and I want to be genuine about everything, because people nowadays like to sugarcoat everything, like how if you work hard enough you can achieve your dream physique, or if you study hard enough you can be a doctor. It's simply not true. You need genetics and it's all a lie.